So summer is in full swing and I want to show you a couple of the issues here that I have going on in my yard and give you a few ideas on solutions for those as well. So the first issue here has been clover in my yard, and I've been struggling with this one over the years off and on. And some people have always said if you don't have enough nitrogen in your soil, then you're going to be dealing with clover. But I've got plenty of nitrogen going on, going down in applications heavier in the fall, but also throughout the year in smaller doses. So I don't think really I'm lacking in that side of things, but I am surrounded by a lot of areas that have a lot of different weeds and a lot of different weed pressure coming into my yard. So it's just something that I think inevitably I have to deal with. And some of them in my backyard, for the most part, I really haven't done anything with them in the past. It's been small patches, sort of blended into slightly taller turf. You didn't notice things as much. But on the front yard low cut turf, the spots that do have patches of clover, that will really start to stick out and will really show up because of that low cut turf. So seeing that it is midsummer here, I don't want to do anything too stressful as far as spraying goes. And you have to watch out with these things because there's temperature restrictions on spraying, and also the kinds of spray that you use are important, because in the colder weather a lot of people will use an ester-based spray, but in the hotter weather you can actually have volatilization with that, meaning that it actually vaporizes and can drift around and get onto other plants and things and can get kind of dangerous. So you don't want to be risking that. If you have anything around when you're spraying that you want to make sure you don't get any spray onto. So an easy thing for me that I've used in the past is just this Weed B Gon, chickweed, clover, and oxalis. So the main ingredient here is triclopyr. This is the actual form that is not the ester. Now make sure you're still following any restrictions according to the label as far as temperature goes, and you really don't want to be spraying anything out in the middle of the day or in the middle of the heat anyway. Make sure you check those labels to see what the restrictions are on the product that you're using. Now another thing that you can use on a lot of things would be tenacity. And tenacity is labeled for a lot of different weeds. The effectiveness on some of them compared to maybe another product, or maybe mixing tenacity with another product, kind of ups the ante there in terms of your success rate. Now tenacity I use mainly for my renovation projects, so I will spray this at the time of seeding because it's safe for new seed and it doesn't harm that seed from coming up, but it helps to prevent other weeds while the seed comes up. So it's a really good product for that. The one downside to this is that you can see some bleaching from this product, and what I mean by that is that you might see the grass tips of the grass blades actually turn white. I've seen this for sure on my ryegrass, and so if you're just spraying spots and you've got a bunch of spots here of white out in your yard, it can look kind of weird. Or if you're spraying the whole thing and all of a sudden your grass turns white, don't be alarmed by that. It will recover. Usually, I think I've seen about 14 days by the time everything grows back out and you start cutting it. So talking about tenacity and what it's labeled for, we can also talk about crabgrass. So crabgrass will come up mainly in the summertime here, especially once the soil temperatures get up. The rest of the grass gets stressed from it being so hot, and the crabgrass thrives, especially too if you're getting good rainfall and it has that moisture there. So tenacity is also labeled for crabgrass, but you can go after a product like this too, which is just a general Weed B Gon. This one also is the Plus Crabgrass Control. The key ingredient here is the quinclorac for the actual crabgrass. So I have used that product before too with some good success. The other thing you can think of is if you have some small crabgrass plants that are starting to come up, identify those early on and just hand pick them. It's very easy to remove them at the beginning. Once they actually get mature and they start to really grow out, then it can be more difficult to pull them. But if you find them at the beginning, just a simple pull out of the ground should work well. Now remember too that a product like this is going to cover a whole bunch of broadleaf weeds and general things going on probably in your yard too. So don't think that it's just specialty to crabgrass or something. There's going to be a whole bunch of other broadleaf weeds that this will control, and just check the label for things that you're dealing with to see if this one's on there. But in general, these broad spectrum ones work pretty well for a whole bunch of stuff. Then the other thing that I'm dealing with here is nutsedge, and nutsedge is a different kind of weed because it's not a broadleaf weed, it's actually classified as a sedge. You have to go after these a little bit differently and with different products. So again, I believe nutsedge is labeled with tenacity, but my specialty product that I've gone after with this has been something like this, Pro Sedge, which is just a generic version of the sedge hammer, or just the general sedge hammer product. I've used both of these, and both of those I've had really good success with. So if you want to know how to spray, how to mix everything with that nutsedge product, I do have a video from last year on that actual topic if you want to check that out. So again, I can't stress enough to make sure that you're checking the labels on the products that you're using the correct rates for your grass types, and reading all of the warnings there as far as what to use for PPE, what to do as far as temperature restrictions. This is going to limit any issues that might come up and make sure you have the best success possible. Now it's been a few days, let's take a quick look here at a few things that I sprayed with just basically the generic Weed Be Gone, and I'll show you kind of what the results were. So this is looking pretty curled up, at least so far it's looking pretty good as far as that goes. So the main one that I wanted to try to see how it would do would be this more mature crabgrass that was here. And for the most part it's looking pretty sick. I think on those directions it said that you may need one more application. Not too bad for this being pretty mature already when I sprayed it. And as far as clover goes with that product, some of it's looking pretty good, like this area where definitely did a pretty good job on the clover. But then some of it still looks like maybe I didn't get a good dosage on a few areas, or I didn't get good coverage on it. So that product also said you may need 2 applications. Keep that in mind, but some areas look like they're coming along pretty well. So tonight I think I'm gonna go after an application of tenacity and then also some of that stuff for the nutsedge. So go after 2 things there, try to get rid of everything else that's going on in the front yard as of now, and we'll see how that turns out. So I hope that was helpful today on a couple things you can do for some issues that you might be seeing in your own yard. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.